Behind the code, the frameworks, and the breakthroughs
are stories of triumph, failure,
resilience, and growth.
This is The Developer's Journey
With your hosts, Ronald Dolph
and Olivia McVicker.
This cycle is not for the faint of heart if you don't communicate effectively.
Tyler Leonhardt is a senior software engineer at Microsoft, working on VS Code.
No, I don't think the software engineer role is going away anytime soon. I don't think it's absolutely necessary to go to college. You know what? Maybe I can do that.
Hey, Tyler, thanks so much for joining us on The Developer's Journey.
Thank you for having me.
To kick us off, I was hoping you could maybe just answer what inspired you to get started with software development to begin with.
It's a good question. Honestly, I kind of rolled the dice going into college, being a computer science major. Well, that ended up being a pretty strong dice roll, a natural 20, if you will, because I kept it up all this time.
So let me ask you this. Do you feel that college is necessary now to reach the status that you have?
I think, everybody's going to have their own journey. College, for me personally, was very helpful, less in terms of gaining the experience needed to do the jobs that I would do post college. But honestly, and it's kind of I don't know, annoying to say, but the networking aspect of college for me was super, super important. I think another thing that was important that I discovered in college is I first had no idea that I could work at a big tech company like Microsoft. I actually thought it was unattainable. And it wasn't going to college that made it feel attainable. But rather it was the people that I surrounded myself with that really helped me personally realize that goal. Because I found myself with a group of friends, all of which had multiple internships under their belts at big tech companies like Microsoft. And I was like, you know what, maybe I can do that.
That's awesome. And I think it's really interesting because I think that's not something you hear from a lot of people talking about the importance of kind of community and surrounding yourself with the right people.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say right people, just people who can kind of help you realize your potential.
Yeah, it's totally dependent on what your goals are in life. And at that moment, I had realized that I this is a goal of mine to go and work at Microsoft, and I found myself in the right crowd to help me to boost me up into realizing that goal. But is it necessary? Absolutely not, because you can find that community. You could find that community anywhere, right? And that community also doesn't even have to be local, right? It can be totally an online community of people that you interact with that can help you realize your potential, if that's what you need. Some people need that. I certainly needed it, but not everybody does. So yeah, I don't think it's absolutely necessary to go to college.
Tyler's point makes me think of the phrase, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And in my experience, that couldn't be more true in your software engineering journey. Whether you are just starting out or you are a seasoned senior dev, your circle can really make or break your growth. So surround yourself with people who push you and inspire you to level up. The right community doesn't just support your path, it propels it. If you're looking to build yours, check out these options. Meetup.com for local tech meetups, Dev2 for online dev discussions, the classic Stack Overflow for Q&A and networking, and hackathons via Major League Hacking or other platforms.
How difficult was the interview process when you applied here for the VS Code team, as a software engineer? Because this is
Yeah.
VS Code. Oh, yeah, I mean, it's one of the most popular code editors, right? How do you prepare for that?
Yeah. Well, before we get there, I mean, I did not come from external. I was an internal transfer onto the VS Code team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So before that, I was actually on the PowerShell team, and before the PowerShell team, I was on another team at Microsoft. I was working on the Windows and Xbox store. So this is my third team at Microsoft.
Did you have to interview, or then when you transferred, or it was they saw your work and they're he could do good work for us?
Every step of the way, there was an interview. But I guess one thing that's nice about Microsoft is that like there's no like hard limit of like how long you need to stay on a team. So if you join a team at Microsoft and you're like, I don't know if this is the right fit for me, there's nothing like holding you back. And in fact, I'm sure everybody would be supportive for you to like go and switch teams to like find what you're looking for, right? I was always looking for doing something in open source, and that's what originally led me to the PowerShell team. And I loved it. And one of the things that I primarily owned on the PowerShell team was the PowerShell extension for VS Code. And so now you can start to see how the pathway as it formed. But like the important detail wasn't that I was working at Microsoft; it's that I was working on an extension for VS Code, right? So people outside of the company, they can absolutely build their own extensions. And by nature of working in the ecosystem, you might find yourself opening issues or being involved in issues in the VS Code repo, right? So you build that like connection with the team. And so I reached out to them, and then I did like an interview for the team. The interview for VS Code is come basically work for the team for a day. Basically, we'll give you like an issue that you can work on, something not too crazy, of course, and see kind of how you mesh with the team. And this particular process is kind of funny for me because, well, I just picked an issue that I created, and then I fixed that issue, right? So worst case, if they did not want me, at least my issue was fixed. So, but anyway, it ended up being okay. I guess they liked me because they gave me an offer, or rather, I moved to the VS Code team, and my issue was fixed. So, best of both worlds.
Win-win.
Yeah.
One of the most underrated skills in software engineering is the art of estimating your work. It is totally better to overestimate and deliver early than to underestimate just to please the team, and then you end up missing your mark. Always communicate roadblocks early and document what's taking time and what steps you've been taking to troubleshoot. That shows effort, not incompetence. And rule of thumb, when it comes to troubleshooting, start with your own research, blogs, books, forums, before asking your colleagues for help. Unless it's something only they would know, use them as a last resort. This builds trust and independence. Related to specifically coding, particularly like after you join like the VS Code team, and with all the stuff that's going on with Copilot, can you tell me like where you got really stuck, whether it's like a feature that you're creating or some type of like engineering like hurdle? Like there's people that's gonna be like looking at like this guy's like one of the top engineers. He's like, working at Microsoft. Does he still go to Stack Overflow to find solutions? Does he work with his colleagues?
Yes to the Stack Overflow thing, of course. Between Copilot, Stack Overflow, and asking coworkers, you can certainly get to the right answer. Let's see, I've been doing some stuff around like Microsoft Auth specifically because it's so complicated.
Microsoft Office, is that what you said?
Authentication.
Authentication, okay.
Yeah. We're trying to move on to like these official Microsoft identity libraries called MSAL. And one of the features of that is being able to like use the OS for like providing authentication state. This is a great example of what you're asking for, which is like, yeah, you hit a roadblock. First, I go to the team and I say, here's the situation I'm in. Yeah, they maybe will be able to help me, maybe not. If not, then you go to the second phase of figuring out what to do, which is, am I going to work around the issue or am I going to contribute to the library? And I've taken both branches of this approach in the past year and a half. And that just like, that cycle just repeats itself, right? It's like, all right, you've worked around the issue or you've contributed to the library to fix the issue, and now you've adopted that fix. Onward to the next one. And you continue to do this cycle until you eventually deliver the thing you want to deliver. But this cycle is not for the faint of heart if you don't communicate effectively to your manager about your status on this particular item. You can hold in so much anxiety as you hit another roadblock, another roadblock, another roadblock. If you hit some very important roadblock that you will have to work through in order to reach your end goal, then that's something that you need to communicate to your manager so that they're aware that, okay, maybe that original deadline that we had set has to move back because something came up, which is totally normal. Things come up all the time that will take you away from like reaching that initial deadline. You got to tell yourself that it's okay that deadline gets pushed back because something came up that you could not have predicted. I think one of the things that the VS Code team does very well, like we have the ability to say, all right, we know that we want to do this particular item, but we want to explore what that actually means. An explore item means you have like this line, go and like try a bunch of different things, play around with solving a particular problem, but there is zero expectation that you need to ship something at the end of this.
VS Code, like you mentioned, has some monthly releases. There's a ton of really great stuff in every month, and I'm always shocked. I'm like, how did they get all this done in a month? And it sounds like there's just a lot of processes in place that kind of help set you up for success. So there's, it's not just, oh, hey, we did this one feature all in a month and we're done. There's a lot of kind of things that lead up to that. Could you talk maybe a little bit more just about the team's processes for, how y'all work with iteration and, things like GitHub Copilot? It's really fast changing tech. How do you even plan for that? How do you keep that cadence going? We'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts of the team, honestly, is this process after the people, of course. Um, so an iteration, first off, is like a period of time, which in our case is a month, where we are like working on releasing the next version of VS Code. So every month there is a new stable version of VS Code. And alongside of that, I guess for completeness, every weekday, I should say, there's also an insiders version that gets released. A typical iteration is broken down into 3 sections. I'll start actually in the middle. So if you imagine a month, let's say it has 4 weeks in it, we will come up with a plan for what we're going to do in this particular month. Those 2 middle weeks are going to be focused on actually delivering on those items. Then we have what we call endgame. And endgame is essentially, we are going to go and verify every feature that's been added. Everybody on the team gets involved. We assign larger features to certain individuals to do some like thorough testing. And then any bug that has been closed in that iteration, we also verify as well. After endgame, then we go back to the beginning. In other words, the next week, the next month, it's called debt week. It's developer's choice. Whatever you want to do to deal with any debt that had to be accumulated, it's your time to clean up your area so that your mental model is nice and nice and clean. And also in that week, we actually hit the button and publish VS Code's release.
Obviously, VS Code has kind of had years and years to, kind of perfect this process. For people who are watching, what would you say is one of the main takeaways from the process that the VS Code team has perfected that people can maybe implement on their own teams, that maybe they're looking to have that quality, those quality releases and such a good cadence?
Easily strong ownership.
It shouldn't be a surprise that Tyler mentions the importance of ownership because it is critical in software development. When multiple people touch the same code but no one truly owns it, things fall through the cracks. Ownership ensures accountability, so the team knows who's ultimately responsible. And not just when something breaks, but also when it's fixed. It creates clarity, reduces finger pointing, and gives people the opportunity to shine and grow as leaders. Bottom line, clear ownership drives better code, stronger teams, and shared success.
Any feature within VS Code, you probably ask me about it and I know who to direct that to. And if I don't know, I'll just go to the source code, I'll look at the git blame, and then I'll know who that is. So in any case, I know exactly who the directly responsible individual is, and be able to route any particular issue to that individual because ultimately they're going to be the most effective at finding a resolution with that issue. I think strong ownership among the team is super important.
So, what's strong ownership versus weak ownership? Does weak ownership mean that somebody might have owned something for a couple of weeks and someone else takes over and no one really holds on to it for a long time? Is that what?
Well, I think it's more so what I've noticed in the past from talking to other individuals is that there's this all right, I shipped a feature and yes, I implemented it, but then it goes to the ownership of like my team. My team owns it.
Okay, there's not one particular person that's responsible for like
Yes.
signing, almost like signing their name. Like this, my name's gonna be on this. If
Right.
someone's working on it, also ultimately, I need to make sure things are done the right way because I'm gonna be finally
Right.
responsible.
Yeah, I see this as like, yeah, the team now owns it, and so now it's like in the aether of team ownership, and also like what I see is the like classic last person to touch it is the owner of the thing, right?
That
Which
sounds
like
Accurate.
you think through this a little bit more, and it's like, okay, I mean, sure, I guess they can. The last person that touched it, that like made a change in a file, I guess they're the person with the most recent expertise on like that little block that they added, right? But that's potentially a block of a larger picture that like somebody else on the team has a lot more expertise on, right? So I do think it's fine for somebody to contribute to something that somebody else owns. I'm going to receive this code, so I'm going to review this code as if I am now going to own it. So I would understand this code as if it were my own, right? It helps stop the like spinning gears of like who in the world is supposed to help me with this issue that I'm seeing.
What would you do different in your career if you were to do everything over again? Or do you feel that like you wouldn't do anything different?
That's a hard question. What could I do differently?
To be more specific, like maybe to have it maybe accelerated you to get to where you're at right now sooner. There's got to be something that maybe you thought, "Yeah, I wish I knew if I could do it over this way, I would do different."
I've always thought like if I go back to like gosh, middle and high school, right? I did theater as I mentioned. I could have gone to a school that like was more technical than arts focused, and so maybe I'd have more like computer sciencey experience at that level. I applied to many universities. I didn't get into any of them except for like one or two, which makes sense because I had really barely any experience at that point in my time, at that point in my life. So maybe if I had built more experience in like middle and high school, then I could have gotten into a quote unquote better university. I went to a like cheap in-state college in Florida. I went to UCF. Like my first team at Microsoft, I remember like seeing the other people who were around me who like went to Ivy League schools, and like I was there too. So this goes back to the question about college, right? It's like I didn't need to do all of this work up front to get to where I am today. I think the journey that I took was a lot of fun along the way, and as a result, it landed where I wanted to land. So
There's a lot of panic around AI replacing software engineers. I think this fear is overblown. Every generation brings new tech that simplifies work, and this is just the latest. Learn how to leverage AI, not fear it. Use it to work smarter, not to be lazy. And the time that it saves can be spent on tasks that you've been putting off, or the ones that AI can't touch because it's not perfect and it won't be for a while. It all comes down to the mindset of how you welcome it, AI or not. Stay curious, stay learning, and you'll stay valuable.
So then, in your opinion, is AI going to take the job of a software developer?
well, let's say that this future is true in that it's going to be less about writing code and more about writing prompts that some AI would then spit out code, and that code would actually get run. If that's the case, I mean, somebody's got to write the prompts, right? As software engineers, we're right at the center of it, and we have the ability to continue on if that vision does in fact happen. We can learn the new skills to still be software engineers in the future, right? Just as somebody who had deep knowledge of assembly could learn about that new flashy language called C, or they could not do that and see what happens, right? We could learn the new thing or we could not learn the new thing. There will be pros and cons probably to both of those pathways, but no, I don't think the software engineer role is going away anytime soon. The job itself might be a little bit different.
I think we've really gotten a lot of good information from you with your developer's journey. We've loved hearing everything that's kind of brought you to here and hear all your little nuggets of information and wisdom. So thank you so much for being here.
Olivia, we're not seeing the VS Code.
Oh,
Yeah, just so everyone can see. There we
Nice.
go. Yeah, we're all matching.
oh, the fireworks are a perfect touch.
Thanks so much, Tyler. This has been awesome. That's it, folks. So please tune in for another episode coming up. And if you have any questions for Tyler or for us, feel free to drop that in the comment. And also drop other future questions that you might want us to ask future guests on the Developer's Journey. Thanks a lot.